Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the first of the 3 games that took place across the Six Nations this weekend between Ireland and Wales, as Ireland go 3 from 3 in the Six Nations and get 1 game closer to the Grand Slam. On top of that, I think it's worth saying that someone in the comments said that if Ireland do win the Grand Slam, I should buy and wear an Irish t-shirt for the last game of the Six Nations, in which I've agreed to. So would you argue it's more important that Ireland get closer to a Grand Slam, or is it more important that I buy myself a famous green jersey? I'll let you decide. But in all seriousness, that was a brilliant performance from Ireland against Wales. They didn't go all their way throughout the match. You have to give a huge amount of credit to Wales. There's a little bit of sort of discrepancy over whether their try should have been a penalty try or not. But even if it was 31-0, you would still say Wales showed a lot of heart in that game. It did start off very tense, very physical. Ireland nor Wales really wanted to budge, but the one place in which Wales were budging was the scrum. Ireland really used that as their sort of key and the tool to open up the match in their favour. They got a huge amount of territory and field position off of that scrum, and they were really dominant in that facet. Not often in an international match do you see sort of a defensive scrum team on sort of ice skates, and that is exactly what happened to Wales. So looking at the front row of sort of Porter, Furlong, and Sheehan, I mean, the power in that just speaks for itself. Maybe the extra power of McCarthy in the second row, maybe that adds to something a little bit different, but nonetheless it was a brilliant sort of forward surge that got them the scrum penalties in the end. In terms of what went well for Ireland in the game, outside of their scrum, their defence once again was really quite impressive. The one try in which led to a penalty try and a yellow card for Ireland was from a maul. So that's sort of, a few people have been arguing whether that should have been a penalty try or not. I think sometimes it is quite difficult to determine whether the sort of laws in a maul, especially when it's getting close to the line, because obviously when the ball's over the goal line, there's no offside lines. In this case, it probably was still in the field of play, so maybe Burns shouldn't have released his bind. But a lot of the times, referees wouldn't give a penalty try for that. It'd just be sort of a more advantage and then go back for a penalty. But I suppose when the game's not too close, not that it should impact a referee's decision making, but sometimes it's less important of a decision, so they just reward the attacking team, which is somewhat fair enough, somewhat isn't. But that was the tail of the tape. I thought Ireland kicked really well in this game. A little theme I'm seeing with Jack Crowley with his kicks to touch is it's very interesting. At the start of the game, he's far more conservative, and then as he grows in confidence throughout the game, he really does sort of bite off more and more and more, to the point in which he's putting the ball on the 5 metre line, which for a rolling maul of the quality of Ireland's, that is exactly what they want. It'll be interesting to see as Crowley sort of develops in that 10 jersey, whether he from the start of the game, he has that same confidence to really go for the touchlines. But it's always better to be a little bit more conservative than to overdo it, as any player, especially the forward pack who have to work so hard to get the possession, would say. In terms of that rolling maul that I've just spoken about from Ireland, it was a good weapon in this game. However, Wales did show some really good resistance early on to it. They did get a turnover 5 metres out from their line, which was a huge boost for Wales. The only problem with Wales was as soon as they got these sort of little wins, the strength of the Irish defence and probably the lack of adventure in the Welsh attack. In terms of that balance, it was probably more brilliant Irish defence, but Wales never really strung enough phases together or got enough momentum to trouble Ireland. Wales spent the most of the first half just defending, which is relentless, especially when facing the size of the ball carriers of Ireland, especially over multi-phase. As much as Wales were doing well, it really took its toll, and when it came to the turnover ball, when they could attack, I think they were absolutely gassed from defending so many phases that all they wanted to do was just kick the thing away and try and get a breather. But you do really have to give Wales credit for their defence. In terms of what Ireland didn't do so well, areas to improve. The line-out misses were relatively frequent, especially considering I don't think before this game Ireland had missed the line-out. That's an area Andy Farrell would really like to tidy up, especially going into the last couple games, going away to Twickenham, which is a game from an English perspective I don't really see as one in which we can win. But those sort of areas of Ireland's game, such as the line-out, is an area England will really like to target with the likes of Itoje in the line-out. I'm sure it will now become a big focus of Andy Farrell in the lead-up to that game. And then I thought the Irish attack was slightly flat at points. obviously, 31 points is a decent amount of points to put on a team like Wales, or Wales of old. Maybe not the current Wales, but it's still a decent scoreline for Ireland. But I felt like they could have scored plenty more tries if they just had a little bit more depth and attacked the line with a little bit more pace on it. I think that just naturally comes with the absence of Ringrose and the slight inexperience at international level of Jack Crowley. Just the combinations weren't quite as smooth as they were away in France, but I'm sure that will come over time. In terms of Jack Crowley, once again, positives: goal kicking, massive step up from Crowley. 4 conversions from the 4 tries, and he really kicked well. He had a couple tough ones from the touchline as well. And once again, the small parts of Ireland's game in which they really want to tidy up, that was one of them against Italy. And it's always good to see when you have mistakes and you have problems that players actively go away and fix it. And Crowley did just that. Really exceptional from him. And then sort of going along with them being a little flat, I thought their resourcing of the rucks in the first half was a little bit sloppy. Obviously, Wales do have some good jackal threats, the likes of Rafael. Were causing, not big problems, but they were there, and the speed of ball wasn't quite what Ireland would have liked. But those are only sort of small, minor imperfections, as the Irish machine was in full flow. In terms of Wales, obviously their maul was their weapon of choice to get them over that line, and their defence was reasonably solid, especially considering where they're at the moment. Negatives: ball retention. They couldn't get possession for love nor money, which was frustrating from Welsh point of view. And then the scrum was on roller skates. Just running through the tries from Ireland, you had Sheehan and Lowe, which you'd probably put your mortgage on scoring each and every Ireland game. Especially Sheehan, he's just unstoppable on the back of the maul. He can really break off. I remember he ran over Josh Adams, completely crushed Josh Adams. And Josh Adams, for a winger, in my opinion, is one of the best defensive wingers in terms of putting in a big hit there is. So that takes some doing. So fair play to Dan Sheehan. Very mobile. I think he's almost got the pace of like an inside centre with the power of a front rower. So not a player I'd like to tackle at all. James Lowe got over for Ireland, as well as Frawley on his debut. Got a few good things to say about Frawley. I thought in terms of your first start and your debut, he really did step up. In terms of a fullback on a test debut, there's a lot of pressure in terms of high balls. And if you're nervous, you're 1% off, it can really show. But I thought he showed really good composure. Playing at the top end of Europe, I definitely think helps with the transition over to the international game, and he drew upon those experiences to show ice was in his veins. So really good performance from Frawley, and he did get a try for his performance as well. And then right at the end, to clinch the bonus point in 80 plus minutes, was Tyke Byrne. He's got a good knack of scoring tries at the moment. Tyke Byrne, very good second row, and he got over at the end. And one try from Ireland was disallowed, the Bundyaki try. Now, I think it was fair that the try got chalked off, but not for what it got chalked off for. I think it was to Jameson Gibson Park, the inside ball was slightly forward, but referee was play on, so he was happy with that. And then he gave it for a knock-on off of Henshaw. Now, if that's on for your try, I don't personally see that as clear and obviously forward and overwhelming evidence to overturn your on-field decision. So I thought that was a little bit harsh. If that was awarded, that would have been one of the best tries we've seen in the Six Nations. Each player had milliseconds to sort of pass and shift that ball on, and Henshaw managed that. I can't remember what other player managed it and got it right to the edge to Calvin Nash, and then they recycled, and Bundyaki went over. All for that to be disallowed, unfortunately. And that was a bit of a sour taste in Andy Farrell's mouth after the match. I remember he was saying how it should have been 38 points, but you can't get everything sometimes when things are going so well for Ireland. In terms of key performers, I thought Caelan Doris, once again, always very good. Frawley was very good under the high ball, added a little bit of spark from the back, as well as the sort of calm, controlled management through his big boot on him as well. And then Sheehan, as always. And then the key performers for Wales, I think they really do deserve some credit, especially when they're in a team which, let's be honest, was probably not going to win the game. Win it from fullback, although they didn't win it, he still showed some really good sort of elements of his game, some really good evasive running. His ability to sort of change direction at speed is really quite impressive. So fair play to him, and I'm really interested to see what sort of player he develops into over the next few years. Wainwright, once again, he's the real physical standout player in that Irish back row, and in the Welsh back row. And without Wainwright, I'd really be a little bit curious to see where Wales would be. I think they'd be really worse off without him, because you do need that big player to stand up and make those carries. So fair play to Wainwright once again. And then Rafael, you could probably have predicted these names before the match. Rafael stood out very well in this game as well. So some good performances on both sides. Ireland really didn't leave gear 2 or 3 in the match, and were in cruise control throughout. But it'll be interesting to see how the last 2 games of the tournament go. Ireland obviously massive, overwhelming favourites to lift the trophy, and they could do it with a round to spare really, especially with the number of bonus points they're racking up. But all eyes on the Grand Slam for Ireland. But let me know your thoughts on the game in the comment section down below. If you could put the notifications on for the First 15 Rugby YouTube channel, that'd be much appreciated. Tomorrow we've got the Ireland player assessments and scores. So if you're interested in that video, make sure you subscribe and put the notifications on so you're alerted when the video comes out. But yeah, until the next video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.